guys? Ash here. I am joined by Michael Holt, aka Molt. Molt, I am so excited to chat with you, man. Last time that we did something like this was like a year ago now, and I've been wanting to reconnect. And the cool thing is I kind of like use these videos as an excuse to connect with like old friends and stuff like that. So I'm thrilled to have you back on, man. How have things been, man? How are you?
They've been good, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm 36 now. As I get older,
Getting
I
up
forget.
there.
I'm 36 now. I'm getting up there. Yeah, getting up there. So things are just changing, man. Priorities, life, all this kind of stuff. But loving it, man. Age comes with a lot of interesting things that I'm sure we'll get into talking about here. But yeah, I'm doing good, man.
For sure. The biggest thing is like when you say age comes with, for me it's perspective a little bit more, you know?
Oh yeah,
And it starts like you start losing a little bit of your some of that youth energy, and at least with me like
yep.
a little bit of the creativity and stuff like that, and the belief that like the world is at the palm of your hands and anything is possible.
Right.
So you may be a little bit of jaded is what I'm saying, but at the same time you gain perspective and wisdom, which is great as an old man to an old man here in the gaming world, at least. Dude, I want to just jump in. I want to start out. We have a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about your faith, your channel. I want to talk a little bit about like Nick and kind of follow up from a year ago there. Marvel Snap, a lot of stuff. So I want to start with Clash Royale though, because that's how I guess we met in Clash of Clans, to be honest with you. I remember the first time I met you back in 2014. I think I told you this in the first chat, but I'm going to say it again, is you were hosting ClashCon in 2014. And I remember, man, like I'm not a starstruck kind of guy. You don't strike me as someone who is either. But at that point, I was like, dude, that's Mole. I was like there as a creator, but I was a new creator, and I'm like, there he is.
Yeah.
Just in real life, it's just like this weird thing. But you had a long journey through Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, and God, now we've known each other for almost 10 years, and we both kind of. I don't want to attribute my situation to yours, but it feels like we're at the same kind of point in terms of our channels right now, where we're casually covering Clash Royale, or at least I was up until a week or two ago. You still are. Talk to me about the state of, I don't know the state of Clash, but the state of Clash as it pertains to you as a creator. Where's your head at right now? Because I would love to see you. Maybe I'm biased, but I'd love to see you kind of go in a direction like me where you just talk about things, because I loved when you just talked about things. But more on that in a bit. How do you feel about Clash in your channel?
It's crazy, man. I think that I would feel different about it if I wasn't also doing Marvel Snap stuff. Because that gives me an outlet to play games and be creative and have a community and all this kind of stuff. And so with having that avenue, Clash, I don't think about it. Like it's an afterthought to me to be like, oh, I don't think I've posted a video in I went on vacation for a week and I didn't make any videos. So I don't think I've posted a video on that channel in almost 2 weeks. And man, saying that is wild because like you remember posting daily for years. Like I think over all of my channels, I've posted an equivalent of a video for like 12 years, a video a day for 12 years, something like that. If you were to take all the numbers and divide them or whatever. And so Clash is an afterthought. Like I feel that's probably the best way to say it. Clash and that channel is an afterthought. And there's a part of that is relieving, but also feels like a waste, if you will, because the channel and that community is not an afterthought, but the game and having to force myself to try and find something new, but also to try and find something positive is difficult. And, I feel like I've felt that way with the game for a while, and maybe that's because of my ADD and how easily I like get distracted by things. Like I haven't found joy in making a video on that channel in a very long time. Like sometimes there will be modes where it's like a kind of a flash in the pan and I'm like, yo, this is so much fun. Like, yes, let's go Clash Royale team. And then like a week later, I'm like, okay. So yeah, I feel like that's probably how I could explain it the best. It's just kind of an afterthought that brings me peace, but also I feel like I'm kind of missing out on an opportunity to impact people, if you will, with that channel.
I think so too, man. And just on Clash, You know, for a long time, maybe you felt this way too, but I would kind of eye roll at creators for years and years who were like, hey, you know, like, I'm just not passionate about the game anymore. I can't do it. And you're like, dude, I used to eye roll and be like, bro, you're playing a video game. Try a real job. Like, suck it up and cover the damn game. But you know what the thing is now I got to eat crow, bro, because I was wrong. There's something to that still. Like, you're playing games at the end of the day, you know, but also my own experience is like, it becomes very obvious when you just don't really, you know, it's not to say I don't like the game. I do like, and I love like the core of Clash Royale and in these games, you know, but when you're not passionate about it, it does affect your content. You know, you can't go through the motions. The viewers can tell is what I'm saying. They can tell, you know, and it will reflect in the views. So like my favorite type of dude, I mean, if you just get the, you know, you have the Let's Get Real video here and you clickbaited me because I thought it was I thought it was going to be a Molt Talks in the backyard or something, but it's you playing Clash Royale. But, you know, those videos though, bro, those videos that you put out, whether I agreed or disagreed with you, and they're tough, at least for me to do, like putting out a video where you're just pouring out your heart about something. You know, usually you feel good afterwards, but at least with me before, I'm like, should I do this? Do I want to say this? You know, talk to me about that. Have you considered making, you know, just real life vlog type videos, sharing your thoughts, your opinions, whatever they may be about anything on your channel?
Yeah. I mean, I used to do those real talk videos. I maybe started that back in like 2015 or 2014. I remember one of them. It's pretty close to 1 million views. It's titled "I'm Messed Up," and then I have another one that was titled, like I'm skinny, I'm dumb, like just things that like I used to be told about myself and things that I would tell myself as well, and just kind of talking about that type of stuff. And I felt good posting those videos, and I think that realness, especially nowadays, is even more tough to gain access to because of the impact of social media and the desire to be seen and accepted. Not saying that everybody pretends to be somebody that they're not, but I would say all of us in moments of our lives have said or done things because we want to be viewed a certain way. And so I miss doing those types of videos and being real and honest, almost to a point where people are like, why is this dude sharing this with me? Like, I don't care. And it's like, well, some of it's therapeutic for me to process and talk through those things. And then just like you and like other people have always said, like, those are some of their favorite videos because you don't really get that as much. And with the state of that channel anyways now, like, I don't have anything to lose. Like, I don't foresee a new Supercell game coming out and rejuvenating that channel in the sense of the quote unquote glory days, if you will. And so that's what I was saying earlier about feeling like I'm wasting the channel. I mean, even if a video got, I don't know, 30, 15,000 views, whatever it is, like if I can impact one person, 10 people, 100 people with something that can encourage them nowadays, just in general, then like that's a win. And so, yeah, I mean, I could totally see the channel turning into something like that, of where it's almost like a, I don't know, a therapeutic thing. I was thinking of some names that I would do, and I was thinking like tailgate talk. Like, I want to go find somewhere, park my truck, sit on the tailgate, and just like tailgate talk. But I don't know where I'd park, and like I feel like I'd be weird and trespassing or something. But I was like that's what I wanted to feel like. It's all good
for the,
you know?
it's all good for the content, man. Right. But no, dude, I think that's I mean, personally, I would love to see that from you. More so than Clash Royale, because I love, again, like I told you before, even if I disagree or don't, not that I disagree, but if I'm not aligned on everything, I still love that type of content. Maybe it's because I know you personally, but maybe it's just because when you're real, it's authentic and it resonates. And I think that's what it is with a lot of people in terms of the feedback you received on your like more live real talk type content. So I'd love to see you to go that direction, man. And, you know, look forward to the tailgate talk if you make it happen, dude.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your Snap channel, man. Let me pull it up here in the background. So you've been killing it, Marvel Snap. Obviously, you're passionate about this. You're tweeting about it all the
Yeah.
time. You're engaged. You're working with a developer, with Tribe, with
Hmm.
just with other creators. I saw you do a interview on OJ's podcast with Dexter and Cozy and yourself, and
Yep.
I felt like you were the vet in the room, like talking about how it used to be because you were the old, the most senior, I should say, not in age, but in
Yeah.
terms of content in that room.
Right.
And you had a perspective that resonated the most with me. Uh,
Hmm.
I want to ask you about Snap, right?
Right.
First of all, you said that you don't see any game rejuvenating the main channel. I'm assuming you're
Hmm.
not as passionate about Mini as you are about Snap or anything like that.
No, yeah, Snap is, and I also I'm passionate about lots of things in the current perspective, but I think as you see people in life, whether entrepreneurial people or whoever, not only are they passionate about the present, but they're passionate about the future, and seeing the potential of Snap is incredible. And that's one of the things that made me hold on so long to Royale. That IP in that game still has so much potential. Like, I think there are things that they could do to that game to blow it out of the water right now, but it's just not what they want. I
Yeah.
feel like they are kind of heading in their own trajectory with the game. And so, yeah, passionate about the present with Marvel Snap, but also passionate about the potential that the game has. The devs seem very passionate. As I've gotten older, I like thinking man games, as I call them, like more like chess. Like you have a long time to think. Like Clash Royale is so reactionary and like, oh, if you don't put it on this tile, then you miss the interaction. It's like I'm 36 now. I don't want to react like that immediately to something. I still think back to a play that Surgical Goblin made where he ice spirited a balloon, tornadoed it to the tower in like one of the tournaments, and I was like shook. I was like, I would never be able to do that. But with Marvel Snap, I can take my time and process and think ahead and all that kind of stuff. And it's more rewarding to my mind now as I've gotten older to play those types of games. And so, yeah, the community's awesome. They just did Twitch drops. Dexter had 30,000 people watching on Twitch, the highest viewed streamer on Twitch at that time. And so, yeah, Snap's doing big things. It's super cool and exciting to kind of be at the beginning of another growing community.
Yeah, do you think that the PC launch or the PC, I noticed that this earlier this week or last week, do you think
Hmm.
do you expect that will like blow up, that translate to growth on existing creators channels of that game, or how do you look at that?
I think that it will add a little bit of growth. I think that the Twitch drops is the biggest thing that's going to add growth because it isn't much of a difference. It's just like a widescreen. So, yes, that does kind of bring in a different audience. But we all know that people in the gaming community love comparison. And the PC version kind of falls short of Hearthstone's PC version and Legends of Runeterra's PC versions. And so I can see some um, people who play those other games look at it and be like, I feel like there's wasted space here or whatever, and
Gotcha,
like
gotcha.
maybe not feel super attracted to it at first. But yeah, again, it's potential. Like they just launched it. Potential for it to grow and excel, I think, is there in droves. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I've noticed the one thing, you stay true to yourself, bro. And I love that about you because I notice not often, because I did a little scrub of your social media, right? But I noticed that that you do occasionally voice criticism about the game, which is something that
Yeah,
you wear your heart on your sleeve, so to speak, to an extent, especially when it comes to
right.
games. And I think that the community has always valued that you act as some
Right.
sort of a conduit to their frustrations at times as well, and you can also read your passion into it. I
Hmm.
think that developers understand, especially for the most part with you, that it comes from a place of wanting the game to be the best possible version of itself. I say all that to say
Right.
that you've been critical about Clash Royale publicly for years. You've been
Hmm.
critical at times about Marvel Snap. How do you think being a voice of contention at times affects your relationship with developers, if at all? Do you find that challenging to
Right.
kind of juggle both of those relationships, your audience and the developer?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that a lot of it comes um not only critical of, like, whenever I'm critical of a game, I want to make sure that I'm intentional in my relationship with developers. So being apologetic maybe about the way that I've said things. The Bible says to be slow to anger, and I struggle with that. And a lot of times, it's like, for me, it came out recently with Marvel Snap when I was preparing for a week-long vacation. The stress that goes in
Oh
when you
yeah.
were
Oh
daily
yeah.
uploading all that. Like, it's very stressful. And when there's a little thing in the game, let's call it a molehill, make a mountain out of a molehill, that saying. Let's say there's a molehill, but I'm trying to spend time with my family and prepare for vacation. And when this little molehill turns into a mountain, then my slow to anger turns into quick to anger. And so what I'm saying isn't incorrect or inconstructive, unconstructive, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I can say it sometimes in a rude, kind of just not compassionate manner. And so I think that when I get to those moments, I always try and message people and I say, "Hey, here's what's going on. I'm sorry that I'm heated, but this game, like, if I'm working late, those people a lot of times aren't working. They're at home with their families. I'm trying to do my job, and my perspective as I'm tired and frustrated is they're at home hanging out with their families right now, and because of something wrong in their game, I now am not able to spend time with my family." And is that rational or logical? Sometimes it can be, but also it doesn't really help the situation. And so I always try and be apologetic if I ever do that. I've done that a lot of times with Supercell, just in private messages to people saying like, "Hey, I probably crossed the line there in how I said that, but I do stand by what I said." And I think that it's important to be critical. In fact, I would challenge the fact that one of the reasons that Clash Royale is in the state that it's in is because not enough people were critical. And there were too many yes men who were just excited to be content creators. And they're afraid of rubbing things the wrong way and being shafted or whatever. And so the game goes down and down and down because instead of saying, "No, actually, this might be better," a lot of people would say, "Yes, this sounds great." And in the long run, that ends up creating issues. And so I think there's a balance of being kind and constructive, and a balance of like not saying anything at all. Like, you got to meet in the middle. Otherwise, there's not going to be progress. Like, I always compare it to a relationship. If there was something that I thought Rachel was doing that wasn't good for our household, and I just said, "No, things are great," like, over the long run, there's going to be distance between Rachel and I. There's going to be distance between us and our kids. And that's not good. And so I think that it's important, especially as somebody who loves these games and as it's my job that provides for my wife and two kids, like, I have to be critical of these things for the future potential of them. I don't think it would ever get to the point where it hurts promotion or my relationship with them, because people know me and they get to know me over the years and know that I'm a genuine guy and I'm going to speak my mind. But yeah, I think it's important for there to be creators who do that kind of stuff. Otherwise, there's no progress.
I 1000% agree with you, man. Like I said, I've always admired that about you. I try to do the same thing in terms of striking that balance between
Yeah.
being honest, at the same time. I'm not looking to, it goes too far both ways. Some people are just like
Hmm.
blinders on and they don't care about anything.
Right.
And like, ultimately that's their choice, right? In terms of creators.
Yeah.
But other people are just like, just extremes, right? And I think that just striking that balance is what it's all about, not to be, cliche with my with my take on it, but I guess that's how I
Yeah.
feel about it. So yeah, man, I always admired that, and I think that it's good to be passionate, it's good to give feedback, and it's good to do it publicly, man. I think it's I couldn't agree
Yeah.
more. So appreciate that mentality. I would say I hope you never lose it, but I don't think you're going to be losing it. So I don't think I need you don't need my hope there. So you mentioned your faith in passing just a few moments ago. We talked about this on our last chat as well. I think I gave a little bit of my background as an atheist,
Uh-huh.
someone who grew up religious, but been an atheist for my adult life. But I always
Right.
love talking to you about faith and religion because it's a big part of you. And frankly, even though I'm an atheist, I'm still incredibly interested in theology, all religions,
Yeah.
and I do have it's hard to say spiritual. It seems like it's maybe the antithesis of atheism, but
Uh,
I do have a spiritual appreciation, I guess, in my own, like, I like the connection to the universe, and I think there's I don't know. I won't go on a dissertation. I want to make this about you. And my
Yeah.
question is in terms of your content. Now, back in the day, I could be imagining this, but back in the day, I felt like you spoke about your religion and how it basically was the number one most important thing in your life. I'm not saying it isn't
Hmm.
right now, but you spoke about that a lot. And I noticed in the
Yeah.
comments too, a lot of your viewers really feeling like you were that voice that in a sea full of creators who seem to have no morals or no scruples when it comes to faith being a big part of who they are, I should say. Not to say that,
Hmm.
atheists can't have morals, obviously. But people resonate with you because of that. But I've
Right.
noticed that you haven't been, and maybe I'm missing it, but you haven't talked about it as much frequently or
Right.
more recently. So I want to ask you, do you find it challenging to juggle the importance of faith in your life with wanting to, I guess, prophesize it to a certain extent, share that with people, with your
Hmm.
audience? Do you find it challenging to weave it into a gaming channel where there's a lot of different
Right.
viewers? How do you feel about your faith when it comes to your content? Are you happy with it? Do you want to go more in that direction, less in that direction?
Yeah. Well, I think going back to what we mentioned earlier, if the whole tailgate talk or whatever happens, like it would be in pretty much all of those. It wouldn't be to the sense of me preaching a sermon or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it would be just talking about things in the Bible that I agree with, believe to be true, and um, try and show truth in those to people. It's interesting to see how the Bible and religion has impacted culture in general. Like a very broad example of that would be like when if you're watching a sporting event and you have a really good team and a weak team, they always say, "Oh, this is a David and Goliath story." And it's yeah, that's exactly what it is, but they leave it at that. And so for me, what I try and do, if there's that sort of scenario in gaming or something that somebody says in chat, whether it's on stream or something that kind of pulls out that stuff in my heart and my mind, then I'll take that opportunity to kind of talk about it, like I did earlier. I said the Bible says to be slow to anger, and being able to do that in regards to not just passively saying, "Oh, it's a David and Goliath story," like being able to dive into that because I know that story well and all of that kind of stuff. I want to I want to talk about it more. It's difficult with Clash Royale because like I don't want to be playing that game. And so it's difficult for me in the moment of like playing that game to be thinking about that type of stuff. But with Snap, when I'm enjoying it more or that sort of stuff, it's easier for me to talk about it because I'm not in a place of frustration or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to share it. Like it is the most important thing in my life. And if you think about how excited you might be to share a new deck or something like that, like you should be even more so excited about something that defines you as a human being, but you also want to share it in a manner that's inviting to everyone. Like you said, your viewpoint as an atheist is completely opposite to mine, but we have a loving relationship as friends who have been through life and know each other. And I think that that's important to try and build with your audience as well, even though you don't have 10 years of traveling the world and all this kind of stuff with those people. You still have the opportunity to bring them into your viewpoints and see if it can apply to perspectives in their life as well.
You know what the thing is? Let me ask you this. It might be, you might not have a great answer. Sorry to put you on the spot with it, but
Okay.
what is the biggest thing that you get from your faith?
Um, I would say that it's comfort and a counselor. In the Bible, God, one of his many names is Wonderful Counselor. And before I grew in my faith and my relationship with the Lord, before I would view that wonderful counselor as almost like a judge, like the council. And I think a lot of people have that viewpoint of, or have that view of God. It's like, oh, he's a judge who's like very stern and overseeing, but it's wonderful counselor. It's somebody that you can talk to, somebody who gets you, And in that relationship, when I take walks and I go and pray for 45 minutes, an hour just on walks, it's a counseling session to me of processing things that I'm going through with my creator. And it just helps me kind of settle myself and be even. You know, he says, those who are heavy laden and burdened, come to him. His yoke is easy and light. And that yoke that is talking about is, if you look at oxen that are in a field, there's two of them, and the yoke on their neck helps them not go the wrong way. If there's one oxen, it can steer off path, but when there's another strong oxen pushing in the same direction, it pulls that other one. Mm-hmm. And so for me, as I struggle with my anger and all of the things that I do in my life, and I start to steer off of that, he's wearing that yoke with me in my life. And as I meet my wonderful counselor and talk to him, it's that same direction. It's like, hey, I'll make this burden lighter. Like I'm in this with you. And so just that perspective in life has helped me so much when I like push the world out, as it feels so compressing at times, and spend that time with him. And I mean, yeah, that's everything to me.
I love that answer. I'm so glad I asked the question, because just to be totally honest, you know, the big time. So the times that I miss having that kind of faith in my life are obviously the big times, like when I lost like loved ones, when I lost my mother, my brother, when I had health issues and stuff like that. Like these big moments, of course, like those are the times that a lot of people would lean on their faith, right? So, but what it really is too, it's more than that. I would say is the consistency of when you just have really bad days, you know, like you could, you know, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Like sometimes in life, we all feel like everything's just mounting up, and missing that kind of that comfort of having almost a, everything's going to be okay. And that strength, I guess, is the biggest thing, right? Missing that vacuum, not being someone of faith in that regard. That's the thing I miss the most, you know, like you feel like you're alone, basically. You feel like you're alone in those times. And that's the biggest challenge for me, you know, is like days when you're just like, you derive meaning from so many things, your family, your kids, your hobbies, whatever they may be, you know, your exercise, whatever. But then ultimately when things aren't going great or whatever, when things are going great, we forget to show gratitude, you know? And I think that generally speaking, I think people of faith show more gratitude on a daily basis than non-people of faith, you know? And that's always a struggle too, to remind myself to be grateful, you know? But I guess I say all that to say that, that's the biggest thing that I miss personally from the first 22 years of my life or whatever, you know? And it's definitely something that I'm envious of in many ways, you know? I wanted to ask you, last time we chatted, you know, I hesitate even bringing up Nick at times, because, you know, it's someone who's not here in the conversation, first of all, and I'm not looking to... I'm not looking to clickbait her name or anything like that, you know, and at the same time also not looking to just talk about people. Like it just feels weird, you know, to talk about others who have gone through a lot, you know, to be fair. That being said, though, I mean, I have to ask you again. I mean, we talked about a year ago, you know, almost. And in that conversation, you know, we don't have to rehash the entire thing, but what's really struck me since then is from you, Nick at Night, was not, to me, you know, knowing you guys for years and years and years and years, it wasn't just a collaborator who made awesome content. That's not how I looked at it at all, you guys, you know? I looked at it as you guys were, you know, in a friendship way, it felt like kind of soulmatey type thing in a like friendship way, because you guys were like thick as thieves. You always, on every trip, you were always together. When I remember a couple times having chats with you without Nick around back in the day, and I remember being like, "Wow, this is a great like one-on-one." I never get a one-on-one with Mo, you know, because you guys were always like had just such a strong friendship, and you were best friends outside of the game, and you know, best man at weddings, everything, you know. So like the thought occurred to me is that like take away everything, all of the, you know, I guess the surface level stuff, but deep down, has it been difficult to you, for you, just to lose not just your biggest collaborator, biggest public figure that you're with, but also your best friend? How has that been for you?
I mean, with time, it's gotten easier. You know, the saying is time heals all wounds.
Sure.
And I think it's clear that both of us, Nick and I, have been wounded from this experience. The last time that Nick talked to me directly was October 1st of, I guess, last
Last
year.
year,
So
yeah.
coming up on a year of any communication. There have been some things that have been uh, said about me publicly, but have been since removed. So no point in bringing those up or anything. But I mean, it's tough. Yeah, it's like that person doesn't exist anymore. Obviously, like the physical human being is still there now as Nicole, but like from what I've seen from the outside, and I've like I'm blocked on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, so I don't see anything anymore, which I think has helped a lot with the thoughts and stuff. But you know, like your iPhone will give you memories or
Memories.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, 2 days ago, the memory was of pictures of Nick and I, and man, it was tough. Like looking at all of those and just being like that relationship is gone, that person is gone. In regards to like when I say that that person is gone, I'm meaning like the interests. Like it's stuff like new games will come out that Nick at Night would have loved, and when I'm playing them, I'm like, oh, and then I immediately am like, oh, I'm not gonna send that. Like Nicole doesn't doesn't play games. It doesn't seem like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean when I say that person is gone. Like the interests are gone, the mannerisms, the sound of the voice, like everything is different. That person doesn't exist anymore, and so it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's like losing a friend, in a very very deep sense of not just growing apart or anything like that, because there was some hurtful stuff said. That almost made me feel like was the effort that I put into this relationship for 2 years during the beginning of COVID, like, is that meaningless? And so there was just a lot of like kind of self-talk towards myself that led me into a very frustrating place of because like I have lots of texts that were slept on. Like the first one was I believe that the first time that Nicole went out publicly as Nicole was to TwitchCon, and um, I texted after TwitchCon and said, "Hey, like how was TwitchCon? Like how was that?" Because I know that that was probably tough, and no response, like anything. And so it was tough to be like, "I'm trying. I know that we don't see eye to eye on this. I'm trying," and I wasn't met with anything, and so that's when I was just like, okay, like my door is always open if you want to talk. But it doesn't seem like now that's even close to being the case, and so I'm waiting. And if nothing ever happens, then I'm grateful for the memories and hope Nicole all the best in the future. Like I never want to wish ill on anybody,
Yeah.
even if our viewpoints are different or anything like that. But yeah, over the last year or so, it's gotten a lot easier to process through that because there have been many days of just emotional wreckage, me bawling my eyes out and like going on walks and like talking to Rachel and just being like broken. But you get put back together, and
Yeah.
I'm in a good spot with it now. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm really glad to hear that you're in a good spot, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. It's been a whirlwind, obviously first and foremost for Nicole, but
yeah,
for everybody else as well. Like I don't want to interject myself into the story at all, but I was with her in TwitchCon that first night that she went out. You know that you mentioned, and I felt like at that time I felt personally like very supportive, and I wanted the best for her, and then after that I
hmm
felt like I mean, I don't even think she would even argue this, but I think it was like quite a bit of adjustment slash you know, a lot of outbursts publicly and stuff like that. A lot of people
Yeah.
who he previously or she loved now, like just turning, you know, and I think that there's probably a lot of reasons for that, you know, that I'm not qualified to speak on. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it became incredibly difficult, you know, and then like doing adult content only from the account, from the Supercell account, you're like, it's just like, what do
Yeah.
you, how do you engage? Like, how do you even engage anymore? And it's tough because I was nowhere near as close with Nick at Night as you were, obviously, but it was also
Yeah.
heartbreaking in my own way because I just wanted the best and I wanted to support, and you
Right.
know, it's challenging. It's really challenging. I'm not trying to be, you know, it's a challenging topic to even, because it's so, you feel like you're always so eggshells about it, but you also want to be real, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, completely.
well,
Yeah.
I appreciate. So my next question, my last question on that was, I think you answered already, was since we talked a year ago, have you had any follow-up chats? And it sounds like no, basically at this point.
Yeah.
I wanted to, this is such a broad question, but I wonder if you had an answer to it. And that is, what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, you've been around, you're old school when it comes to our industry. You're known for a lot of stuff, you know. You're known for
Yeah.
things that are as menial as or surface level as angry molt or ranting molt. You're known for your
Yeah.
faith. You're known for your authenticity. You're known for your connection with your viewers. All kinds of stuff. What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah. Um, Man, I feel like I want my legacy on YouTube to be about uh people feeling accepted for who they are, honestly, which is an interesting segue from the previous
Yeah.
topic of Nick. But I always tried to talk about the fact that people are unique. Um, you see so many things in movies, and we all experienced it in high school too. Like, I want to be the popular kid. Like, oh my gosh, that person looks like they have it all, but deep down they are broken and hurting. And a lot of those popular people are wishing that they were the quote unquote nerdy kid at the table, that didn't have all the pressure of things. And so, I hope that the experience that people have from watching my content, that they can just glean a bit of acceptance for themselves, that they can push against insecurities and knowing that insecurities can be their strength. Another Bible thing from, I believe, it's 2 Corinthians says that in our weakness, God is made strong. And I think that a lot of us can see that outside of the Bible in life. For those who don't want to connect it to the God of the Bible, they can say, yeah, in our weakness, like there is strength. Like the
Oh, yeah.
things that I have gone through in life creates strength, and it sucks in the moment. And a lot of times those weaknesses are insecurities, but those insecurities also drive us to places that we would have never gotten to in our life if those insecurities didn't exist. And so I hope that as people look back, man, it's wild still getting comments and being like, yo, I used to watch you in 2015 in middle school, and I'm about to graduate college or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yep.
And it's nuts to think that I was able to have an impact on people. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I haven't deleted any of the videos with Nick, and I'm not going to. I don't think that that's fair to all of the people that gained a part of, I don't want to say a part of themselves, but gained something from two friends being goofy as hell and just having fun and like letting people know they can be weird, they can be odd, they can laugh louder than people want them to, they can do all of this kind of stuff. And so I guess what I want my legacy to be is just somebody who um, cares deeply for people, and isn't afraid to talk about difficult things, because I think that that's important. And I hope that people can kind of glean that from videos and everything to, push against their insecurities and be okay with who they are, and care for others.
Oh, that resonates so much with me, man. I think it's so important, and I think my answer to the question would be very similar in a lot of regards as well. What you said in the beginning of your answer too about strength through friction or
Hmm.
adversity in one's life. I think that that is so true, and I think that I don't think this is anybody's fault or anything like that. And maybe I'm sounding like an old man here, but I truly believe that like we're seeing rates of depression and anxiety just
Oh yeah,
skyrocket. And I
yeah.
think that, and we're also seeing in correlation with that, and I don't believe this is a false correlation. We're also seeing rates of basically technology, convenience, everything also
Hmm.
skyrocket. It's easy to basically access any information in the world. It's easy
Right.
to do most things that even 30 or 40 years ago were almost impossible to do. And I feel like all these little friction points are being removed from our life, and I feel like that is provides
Yeah.
opportunity for for not having those scars and those lessons and that strength that you gain from those little tiny things. I feel like
Yeah.
it's almost on a small level. I think that those are
Right.
it's hard to notice too, because it happens so subtly, right? And it happens generationally that part of me wonders if it's really all the little things. It can be something
Hmm.
as small and meaningless as, like, I don't know, back in our day, you leave your house when we first got our license, like, you were disconnected, man. You were on your own,
Right.
like if you
Yeah.
wanted to go somewhere that you didn't know how to get to, you need to write down
MapQuest.
directions. Or this, even before that, like there was no, you had to have
Yeah.
an old fashioned map, so, and there was
Yep.
no one to call. You had to figure things out. And I know I'm sounding old here. I don't mean to
Uh-huh.
sound old man back in my dayish, but I do think that like all those things in life, right? I think
Yeah.
that it's leading to, I don't think it's a surprise that we're seeing the hurt that we are.
Yeah.
So I think it's even more valuable to have people like you out there talking about these things, talking about, everything that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, I wanted to end with fatherhood, man. I mean, on a lighter
Yeah.
note, or maybe not. I don't know, but like, how is it?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, everybody says, "How has it changed your life?" And you're gonna say it's amazing, but like, on a deep level, what changed being a father for you? What changed? I saw this tweet by you the other day. Just an absolutely beautiful picture of you throwing your son up into the air from the pool, and you just had such a great tweet. And as a fellow father, like I can totally resonate with this as well. So talk a little bit about being a dad, man.
Yeah. That's already making me emotional. You know, I was deeply blessed by a very present and loving father in my life. That I only desire to be a fraction of for my kids, and I know that that isn't true for everybody. I know that whether fathers are absent or fathers pass away or fathers are physically there but mentally distant. I know that that's something that a lot of people deal with, and I don't want my son to deal with that. I want to be mentally present, and that's one thing that I was talking about with my frustrations sometimes directed at work. There's this image. I don't. I've tried to find it again, and I haven't been able to. And it was an image of somebody carrying like so much stuff on their back, um, and they respond negatively to like this tiniest thing. And people are like, "Why did you just respond like that to that?" And it's like, "Because of all this back here." Um, and so in life, like when I was preparing for this vacation and all of this kind of stuff and getting all that work done, like all that I wanted to do was be present for my family, like before we left, and then also present for them when we were there. And so it like I would get so frustrated because it's like these games and my job is keeping me from that. And I think sometimes that shows us our priorities as well. Like I preached a sermon on this like years ago about so many fathers who think that they're providing for their families because they're providing money, they're providing a house and all that kind of stuff, but they're not providing their presence. And I don't want to be that type of dad. I want to provide my presence for my son. Caleb doesn't know what I'm doing when he says, "Oh, you're going to work." He doesn't know that we wouldn't have this house if it wasn't for me making videos and streaming and being away from him. And so it's taken a lot, man, to get to the point where I can leave work up in the office. Going back to the whole social media thing that you were saying, like I I have my regular phone doesn't have anything related to work on it at all. I have a different phone that I keep up here that has everything on it. At night, I put my phone away from my bed so I can't reach it, and I just started doing that probably a couple weeks ago. And it's made a huge distance because I want to be present. And even for those of you who are listening who don't have kids, like this is one of the things that's missing, like you were saying, from that social media aspect of it infiltrating life, is people aren't present with those around them anymore. There's a saying that says it takes a village to raise a kid. And back in the day, a village was, I don't know, probably 50 people. It's not it doesn't take a country to raise a kid. It doesn't take 1,000 voices online to raise a kid. It takes people being present. And you can kind of put that in other aspects of life in regards to friendships or relationship with coaches at school or teachers or neighbors, whatever it could be. Presence is so incredibly important because so many people are physically present but deeply mentally distant nowadays. And I think that we are going to see some very disturbing stats over the next couple of decades of what that distance has done to humanity. I think that we can already see that a lot with so much of the political tearing and religious tearing and all this kind of stuff that's happening, where people are just not treating humans like humans anymore because they're mentally just distant. Like there's a disconnect between humanity, and so when huh?
No, I was gonna say it even extends into relationships, man. People are
Oh
not
yeah,
having children as much. People are not,
yep,
people are not getting, married or having a long-term partner. Living alone way more often than ever before. So, I
yep.
mean, yeah, just wanted to chime in that I couldn't agree more about everything that you're saying. Go on, please.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's just what I want to be for my son and my
Yeah.
daughter. I know I wasn't talking about Eleanor as much because she's only 7 months old, so there is that connection. Especially over the last couple months, man, goodness, having a girl, whoo, she is tearing me up, dude. And I love it. Like, yeah, she is such a blessing. In kind of chipping away at a lot of the stone that's been inside of me from so many years of YouTube and a lot of frustration that's come with that and whatnot over the last special years, especially. But I want to be present for my kids, and I want to teach them to be present. Like when Caleb has his pouch in the morning, we watch a couple of shows together, and then it's like we're like, no, you're not playing games on an iPad or a tablet, whatever. We're not watching TV unless like somebody's sick and it's a very special occasion. On Fridays we have movie night, but otherwise we're building stuff with blocks. We're playing. We're using our creativity. We're drawing. We're being imaginative. Because I think that a lot of parents and people have just passed off the difficult things for the easy things. Like, oh, my
Yep.
kid's crying. Okay,
Yep.
Coco Melon's gonna help my kids. Like, I'm not watching that crap in my house. Like, no, I don't want to distract my son from developing. I want to help him develop. I want him to go through things. This is another Bible thing. Like, I don't want to give him a fish. I want to teach him how to fish. Like, I want to give him things that are good for him and help him grow as a kid. And so, yeah, I guess presence is the biggest thing that I can add to that question is like, how has fatherhood changed me and how have priorities changed? It's presence, like present with my neighbors, present with my family, and present with people at church. And then when I'm working, I'll be present with people online, but they're not priority. When like I'm gonna go look at I want to go look at a human's face and have a conversation when I'm done doing stuff online. I don't
Yeah.
want to go get back on my phone and type on a screen
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not gonna help me grow as a person.
I love that, man. We're such on the same page. It's crazy, man. It really is. I love hearing you say it because it's someone else saying what I truly believe so wholeheartedly, about presence, about
Hmm.
your time, about your attention. Uh, it is so unbelievably sad, man. I understand that life isn't easy for a lot of people, and sometimes that easy shortcut to a device in front of your kid or whatever, or sitting in front of
Right.
the TV, sometimes you got to do what you got to do,
Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
at the same time, I've always you know, ever since I've had my kiddo, it changed my life. The same story as you. I used to be an incredible workaholic, and I would grind day and night, basically for years and years and years and years, working 2 jobs before I went full time on YouTube. And then when I went full time, I thought I'd have all this extra time, and then I just devoted all that extra time into more, into the spiral, you know. And then when my relationship ended with the mother of my child, I had this massive, he was only 1 year old, you know, and I had this massive gut check of like, what am I doing here, you know? And since that day, really, to your point, I have him half of the time. I have him 50% of my time, Charlie. And when I have him, I mean, the most I will ever do work is basically like click upload on a video, you know, that's already ready to go, you know. I try to just be, and the same thing with you is I try to basically, I just try to always be doing something creative or fun, you know, exploring, building, puzzle, whatever it may be, you know, reading, whatever, you know, but engaging and talking and having conversations. I think it's so important, man. And it's super corny and cheesy, but I think I learned a lot of that from, I think I mentioned this before in the channel, but from Fred Rogers, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Oh yeah,
but, yeah.
Of course.
Dude, I loved how he used to, as a little kid, I loved how he used to talk to kids like they were adults, like, and have conversations. And I feel like that is something that just doesn't, a lot of parents just don't do. They just treat them like they're just barking orders all the time, you know? And I hate to be judgmental about it, but like, dude, I pride myself, and I'm so happy that I have a relationship with my son that I can actually have conversations and see what he feels about things and stuff like that, you know?
And like recognize, like the biggest thing for me with Caleb as well is I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna yell at him when I'm frustrated. I'm gonna have a tone. I'm gonna do this kind of stuff. But being apologetic and having those conversations, like, hey, bud, like what you did was wrong, but it was also really wrong of me to react that way. That has gone so far, even for his 3.5-year-old mind. And like all of this stuff that we're saying about our kids, you can apply to relationships with friends. Like a lot of like bros in high school, like I was one of the, like, you don't talk about stuff, but like be like, hey man, like you're kind of a dick, and I feel like it affected our relationship, and like, no, like, it's not okay. And I like friends need to do that type of stuff. Friends need to be real and be like, hey, I did something that was wrong, accepting your fault, and then also being like, honestly, what you did like hurt me as well. Like let's grow in this relationship, and not do it over the phone or over text or anything like that. Like sit down, be like, hey, this might be tough. Let's start off. I love you very much as a friend, and because I love you, we need to have these types of conversations. And I think that's super, super important. Side note on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, there's a kid show called Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is about Daniel Tiger, which is in the thing. So that's cool. Caleb watches that all the time.
No big deal, but I went and saw him live in Boston. No big deal. No big deal. Just but anyway, man. Hey, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. You spent a lot of it with me. Very generous. I love chatting with you, man. And I would love to do it sometime soon again. I can't wait to see what you do with your channel. Genuinely, keep doing what you're doing, and just appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, love you, brother. Take care.
All right, take care, man.